I want to bring in, if I can, Larry Haas as well. Larry, at one point, worked in the White House, and he is nowadays with the American Foreign Policy Council. We often bring him on to give his take on U.S. politics, which, of course, are never dull these days. Larry, good to have you with us, especially today of all days. What did you make of what you heard from Dr. Ford?
Well, obviously, the bottom line is that she comes across as very believable, very credible. And as your current guest has stated, it is the case that the vast majority of senators have made up their mind. But the fact that about 5 to 10 of them have not is really the only issue. And with Republicans in control of the Senate by such a tight margin, 51 to 49, Republicans cannot afford to lose more than one. They lose one, it's 50-50. Vice President Pence votes to break the tie, they're fine. But you've got Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and others, Jeff Flake, who probably are undecided and are very eager to hear Brett Kavanaugh now. And if he has equal credibility, then perhaps they will stick with Kavanaugh. But if he appears at all shaky, if he raises issues of credibility while she seems so credible in her beliefs, even with the holes in some facts, uncorroborated evidence and all the rest, that could really shake things up a little bit here. So this is not the done deal that Senate Republicans were hoping that it would be. And where the vote is going to go in committee tomorrow and where it's going to go on the floor in the coming days, it seems to me, is really up in the air at this point because of the credibility of this witness.
You raise a great point about credibility, and it really seems like it's going to come down to that at the end of the day. What Brett Kavanaugh says happened, what Christine Blasey Ford says happened, and what these other women now have come forward with accusations as well, what they say has happened. So in the end of the day, when you're thinking about all of that, I mean, how does that play out? How do these senators decide who they are going to believe, Larry? How do you make sure it doesn't become about politics versus what actually happened, the truth?
Well, the vast majority of this is politics. There is no question about it. Lindsey Graham made very clear that he feels, and I think he has some justification for this, that Democrats have dragged this out so that it becomes closer to the midterm elections. The Republicans desperate to get this done before the midterm elections because with a blue wave likely coming, Republicans could lose control of the Senate. And then if they were, even though they could push this through in a lame duck session in November and December, that probably would be beyond the political pale if they've lost control of the Senate to try to push this through under those circumstances. Republicans clearly want to do this politically. Democrats clearly want to stop this politically. So we're already beyond the idea that somehow this isn't going to be political. Having said that, I do believe that there are still a few open-minded senators who are watching today very carefully and are going to make up their minds at the end. So you can set aside the 90% of this that's political and hope that the few who are still undecided will do this on the basis of believability and conscience as opposed to politics. But, we'll have to see what happens.
I want to ask you as well, Larry, well, we've got you here, and I know it's a busy day in the Capitol, so we appreciate you coming on the program today. How you would characterize the way the president has dealt with this and sort of ever-growing anger and frustration in the beginning. His remarks last week, anyway, were rather measured for Donald Trump, but that has changed in the last week or so. And now he's talking about this being sort of a con job by the Democrats. He referred to them using the term evil as well. And he's gone after Dr. Blasey Ford and basically said, she doesn't remember this, she doesn't remember that, she was drinking, and on it goes. Your read on why Trump did this and what the ultimate result might be of his strategy?
Well, the early strategy was a good one, a humane one. It was recommended to him, and he was measured. And his White House staff, including Kellyanne Conway, were very measured. They were respectful toward Dr. Ford and said that she deserved to be heard, and they wanted this to be done in a respectful way. I think what changed in the president's mind is the additional women coming forward. And I will say this, there are increasing questions of credibility of the second and third woman as opposed to Dr. Ford. That doesn't mean that they're not credible, but there are increasing questions of the credibility, based on what they remember, how long ago this was. I mean, the second woman is basically saying that, something happened. She's not sure that it was Brett Kavanaugh, but others told her after the fact that it was Brett Kavanaugh. Now, that is a whole different order of magnitude difference in credibility from Dr. Ford. And if the White House, starting with the president, resents that, they do have some reason to resent it. That doesn't mean, however, I want to be very clear about this, that does not mean that it justifies the president's attack yesterday on Dr. Ford, because he has wrapped everyone together, Dr. Ford and everyone else, and basically saying that now he has decided that no one is credible. That is not going to help Republicans in this process, and it's not going to help them in November.
Larry Haas joining us from Washington. Thank you, Larry, for that. Appreciate you coming back on the show today.
All right. Thank you.